Hi everyone, it's Lisa here, and I'm back with another installment of getting into art journaling. In the previous videos, we talked about needing some sort of item to work on. So whether it is an actual book, tags, or whatever, you need something to work on. And then the last one, we talked about mediums. Now, somebody left a comment that I did not show close-ups of the product to show them a little closer up. So I'm going to do that right now. So this is the Liquitex Gesso. You can see that is what that one looks like. This is the Golden Brand Gesso. Oh, let me go like that. So that's what that one looks like. This is the Fluid Matte Medium by Liquitex. So there you go. This is the regular gel medium in the matte. And then this is the light molding paste. So I hope I hope that cleared up a little bit. So those are the mediums we talked about last time. And those were just recommendations. Again, this is all a matter of preference. So if you don't feel like you need some of those products, by all means, use whatever you have. That is the kind of the whole premise of art journaling, is just using what you have at hand. Don't go out and spend a ton of money, especially if you're not 100% for sure if this is what you want to get into. Again, it is a hobby, so you can spend a ton of money on it. So try, if you're getting into it, try using what you have first to see if it's what you like to do. So today we are going to talk about tools. Now, again, this is just a recommendation. You can certainly, take it, for however you need to, or modify it if you need to at all. So for tools, we're going to kind of break it into, a couple different items. So we're going to talk about first things that you need to use for the mediums, as well as certain things that are just going to help the process of cleanup, or of, working with product, or to kind of put product on. It's just gonna, some tools that'll help you out. So the first things first that we're going to talk about is paintbrushes. Now, there is 1,001 different varieties of paintbrushes. Where do you start? So it just depends on what kind of medium you're working with. And I know it's like, well, I don't know what kind of medium I'm working with. Watercolor have their own paintbrushes. Acrylic have their own paintbrushes. Oil paint has their own paintbrushes. It's just a matter. I kind of don't really follow the rules per se. I've used my acrylic paintbrushes for watercolor, and I know you're not supposed to, but I've used my accidentally watercolor paintbrushes on acrylic. I just really clean them up after. That's the key, because I spent a lot of money on watercolor paintbrushes. So, what kind of watercolor, or what kind of paintbrushes? These are ones that I started off with, and actually you can tell I use them quite a bit. These ones are actually the Artist Loft, if you see there, and it has like the sizes on the paintbrushes. So the bigger the number, the wider the bristles are up on top here. Or if you get the round one, the bigger around they will be. So I'm going to show you. This is a monster paintbrush. I recommend this one, but only if you're willing to invest the money into it. And it's super dirty. It's a very expensive paintbrush. So I think if you were to later on get into art journaling, if you knew 100% for sure you wanted to get into it, this is the one I recommend. And it is the Catalyst paintbrush by Princeton. Let me go this way so you can see. So you can see it's 12 inches, or 12 inches. I think they go 12 millimeters is how I think they go. So it is quite a bit wider. Just to show you, for example, this is a 9 and there's a 12. So it's quite a bit wider, but this has like plasticky bristles, so the paint doesn't get really gummy up into it. So that's another thing we're going to talk about. So I recommend you start off with something simple like these Artist Loft. Don't spend a lot of money on paintbrushes, because if you're not really sure how to clean them or how to take care of them, you're going to be throwing away paintbrushes, which is what I did to start off with, because I would forget to wash the paintbrushes and they would get super hard, so I had to chuck them out. So start off simple, start off inexpensive. You can get actually a really inexpensive set from, I think, Walmart. I say Walmart because that's what I have here. But Walmart has like a very inexpensive package that has like a whole bunch of different paintbrushes in there. And if you're looking for something where you're not really sure what to use, it has like a whole wide array, from a big wide almost looks like a paintbrush, like an actual paintbrush like you would paint on the wall, to some of kind of like smaller handle ones like this, thin tip, wide tip, round tip, flat tip. So that's the other thing. These are, again, a flat tip. I'm going to show you, this is a set that I purchased from the art supply store. Now, I think you can get them at quite a few different places. You're just going to have to look around. I'm just going to hold it up so you can see. This is an actual paintbrush set. So it has watercolor as well as acrylic. I picked this up for $25. So the cost is very, very minimal on these. So these ones here are acrylic, and these ones on the outside are watercolor. You can tell, but they're, because they are really, really soft bristled. If you can see, they are really soft and squishy. These ones is the acrylic, and they are a little stiffer. They're really stiff when you pull them out, but they are a lot stiffer. If you can see that, they even sound a lot stiffer. So then you have the flat brushes and you have the round brush. I'm going to show you the difference. I'm going to pull one the same size. So this is a flat brush. This is a round brush. Now, I prefer the flat brush over the round brush. Each one of these brushes is going to kind of give you a different stroke, if that makes sense. This is going to give you wider or narrower, depends. Like if I hold it like this, I'm going to get a narrow line. If I hold it like this, I'm going to get a wide line. Let me grab a bigger one so you can understand. So this is going to be a wide line. That's going to be a narrow line. So it just depends on what you want to do. You can get a little bit more precise, I find, with these. Again, it's just a preference thing, so there's no right or wrong way. The round ones, you're going to get a different stroke as well. It's going to be more of a circle when you start off rather than a flat line. And you could do a little bit more maybe symmetry looking items. Like if you were doing, say for example, handwriting, you would be able to get the same kind of stroke versus using a flat tip. You might get more like a calligraphy stroke, like where it would be wider on some parts than on other parts. So there's a lot of different reasons to use round versus flat. I find I gravitate to the flat because I feel like I can control it a lot better. And again, it's just a preference thing. Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? No. So, how do we clean our brushes? I'm a really bad cleaner-upper of brushes. So honestly, what I do is I have my little red Solo cup full of yucky water. I wish I could show you. Let me just turn this down for a little bit. You can see it's super yucky. And I just throw them in there while I'm doing things, so that way, say like, I don't know, Friday or Saturday or Sunday, I'll go clean all my brushes. If I keep them in the water, I know it's bad. You're not supposed to leave your brushes in the water. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to, after you're finished your project, you're supposed to go and clean them right away. I just can't. I don't know what it is. I just can't. So what I do is I will sit them in the water until I'm kind of ready or I have time to go and clean them. And then I just go clean them really, really well with just some water and just make sure that I have all the gunk out. I'll even go like this while I'm cleaning it, just so that I can make sure, if that makes sense, I'll go like that. So that way I make sure if I'm using soap, I actually have a brush cleaner. You know, you don't have to get a brush cleaner, but if I go like this, I make sure I get the soap up in the bristles. I'm pretty sure you could probably use maybe like a mild dish detergent, like Dove or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure you could. So that's it for brushes. Again, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below and I will address them. So the other thing we're going to talk about that you can apply mediums with, actually these. These are super easy to clean up with. They're easy to apply paint with. If you're one of those people who do not like your fingers yucky, then I recommend going to the paintbrushes. But if you are like me, where I go to work with like paint on my wrist, on my nails and everything else, it doesn't bother me. So I recommend, if you're trying to, you know, feel the texture of the page or move the paint the way you want it to do, use your fingers. You'll be surprised on just even with your fingers, by say if I need to get like a little bit more of a narrow spot, I'll use my pinky, or if I need like a wider spot, I'll use my finger, or you can just move the paint a little bit better. You can kind of control it a little bit better. But if you don't like to get your hands yucky, then go to the paintbrushes. There's by no means is there a rule against using paintbrushes or not using paintbrushes. It's just whatever you have at hand. Another thing that I'm going to recommend that you get is a cheap set of palette knives. This is one that's been used and abused, and it's kind of like an offset angle is what they call it. This is an offset spatula. You might find them as spatulas, you might find them as palette knives, but it's just offset, so that way if it was straight across, you would have to manipulate it. You could probably get away with using a plastic knife if you could. It's just easier if it's offset a little bit. And this is going to help you keep your paintbrushes out of the mediums. Now, when I talk about the mediums, I'm talking about the light modeling paste or the gesso or the regular gel medium. This stuff is nasty when it gets up in the bristles of your brushes. They will dry extremely hard, extremely fast, and I shouldn't say extremely fast, but they dry and then your brushes are garbage. And I don't think you want to do that. It's you've invested money into your paintbrushes, so you know, if you're not worried about spending a lot of money on your paintbrushes and you just want to toss them, then you can. But after you start keep buying paintbrushes over and over and over again, you're going to go, oh man, I need to like clean my paintbrushes. So this is a way for you to apply mediums to your page so you don't have to use your paintbrushes. I use this one for applying mediums because it has the plastic bristles and it's cleaned up every time. So again, but for the most part, if I can get away with it, I will try and apply any medium I have with a palette knife just to save my brushes. And I think you can pick a package of 5 up for like, I don't know, like $2 or something like that. They're super cheap. So that is another item I recommend. Also, I mentioned this before. Here's my fancy water container. If I'm even doing watercolors, I know they like, you know, have a way where you can clean. They have like this whole little system for cleaning your watercolors if you want to get like plain water through and stuff like that. I just use a water, like just a red Solo cup. I have like a ton of these from my daughter's graduation, so I'm just using them, and I use them until they're yucky, and then I throw them out. So super cheap. Or use an old jar, or use whatever you have on hand. I've used a ton of different things. Right now I'm using the Solo cup just because I have so many. So that's another thing. Another thing you're gonna want is baby wipes. This is going to help you for cleaning up product, cleaning your hands, kind of blending. It helps you blend paint. There's a lot of things that you can do with baby wipes. And we'll, you know, if you've seen my What's Up Wednesdays, you'll see that I'll, you know, take a baby wipe and either blend, or I'm trying to like remove color that I put down in a place where I didn't need it. So this is like your eraser, so to speak, for a different mediums or different places where you have paint and you don't want it to be. So I recommend baby wipes. I buy the Kirkland brand because when I go to Costco, because Lord knows I don't spend enough money at Costco, I got to help them out because apparently my bill cannot be under $300. So I will go pick up a case of baby wipes, and this is my last one, and I had a case for probably 6 months. So it's lasted me a long time. I go through roughly a package a month, but I do art journaling quite a bit. So you can find them from the dollar store. I was getting them from the dollar store before that. It just got to be really expensive. So yeah, so there's another thing. Another thing to get is wax paper. Now, wax paper, you're like, what do I need wax paper for? I don't understand. So if I pull this off, I can use this as a palette. This is palette paper from the art store, and it's got like this smooth surface that I can put paint on. Let me smooth this down because that's crinkling. I can put paint on top of it, and it's got like this smooth surface on it, so that way I can blend colors and stuff like that. I can tear it off, and I can put the leftover paint into another journal. But it does get expensive after a while. I don't know, I can't remember how much this palette is. This is the brand that it is. This one was $4.25, 9 by 12, and it doesn't say how many sheets. I don't know how many sheets, but anyway, that's the brand. Oh, 50 sheets, duh, right there. So it's not uber expensive, but you know, if you're going through it and you're like, there's got to be a better option, you could use wax paper for the same thing. You're gonna get pretty much the same results. Wax paper is really cheap. I got this from the dollar store, so there you go. The nice thing about this stuff as well is if you are working on an art journal page and you want to make sure you don't get paint between the pages, like this is one that I just did. So what I could do is, if I'm, say, working on this layout, I can put the wax paper, let me just, this is really horrible, but you can see I can put the wax paper between the page that I had just completed and the new page that I'm going to work on, and that's going to protect the last page that I made from getting a whole bunch of paint on top of it. Do you have to worry about paint getting on the last page? No. Usually what I do is I'll snap a picture of an art journal page that I made when it was pristine and it was beautiful, and then I just turn the page and move on. If I get a little bit of paint on it from, say, like the new page that I'm making onto the old layout or the old art journal page that I made, it's just something you're just going to have to deal with. And I just kind of, as Donnie says, it's kind of just an added bonus. It just adds a little bit more something to the page. So that's another thing is, you know, it's a preference thing. If you want to super protect your page from getting stuff on it, you might have to, you know, really make sure you have a nice sealer on top of your pages. I don't really worry about it. So that's the nice thing with wax paper. There's a couple other techniques that you can use with the wax paper. You could put paint on top of here, like I said, and then you could put it down just like this. It can mush it into the paint or into the paper, and you could get like this really different kind of paint texture to it. So there's lots that you can do with wax paper, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us can get this relatively easily. So that's another thing. Now for drawing, you want to get a heat tool. I recommend do not use an embossing gun. An embossing gun really centralizes the heat on the blower part of it. And so what it does is it basically almost cooks your paint. So you'll see it like bubble and crack, and you don't want that. So I recommend getting this little Ranger heat tool. It just, if you see, the nozzle on it is quite a bit wider, and it diffuses the air out of it, and it just works really amazing. I know if you want to, you could use your hair dryer on a cool or warm setting. I know quite a few art journalers that do that as well, and you'll get the same result, because basically when it comes, it's not like you're embossing with embossing the medium, like embossing powder, unless you are using that for your art journal page, which you most certainly can, which we'll get into later. But when you're drying stuff, you don't want, you're looking more for the airflow than you are for the heat. Airflow is going to help dry your pages faster, because when you are looking at gel mediums and paints, they dry with airflow. So the more air that you create, whether it's hot or cold, you're moving the air across the page, and you're going to dry it that much faster, if that makes sense. So I recommend something like this. This is the one I use. It's again the Ranger Heat It craft tool. Works really, really good. And you can tell it's my kind of, you can tell by the handle, it definitely gets some love. So that's another tool I recommend. You want a good pair of scissors. This is the long Ranger scissors. These are the Tim Holtz ones. I'm not sure if you can see it, but Tonic. They're a little bit pricier, but you don't need anything as fancy as this. I just find it cuts through pretty much anything thick that I need to get cut. You know, any kind of scissors will work. You just want to make sure they are a really good set of scissors. The sharper they are, the better they're going to cut through materials. I don't remember how much these are, but these are definitely ones that I do recommend. And they're good for pretty much anything besides art journaling, like scrapbooking or whatever. So those are scissors. That's more or less just for cutting into anything, any kind of medium. The next thing I recommend is a straw. And you're like, well, what am I going to do with the straw? So you could get fluid paint or make fluid paint, and you could blow through the straw, and you will create this burst kind of effect to it. Straws are so cheap. I think you can get like a bag of them for $1 from the dollar store or something like that. But it is a really nice little tool for different effects for what you're looking for. So definitely a straw. You want to keep that in your little toolkit. Next thing I recommend is a pencil and an eraser. This is just a mechanical pencil, nothing fancy. This is just going to help you if you're not 100% sure on how to draw. You can always erase it. So just draw, doodle, or whatever, sketch out something if you need to. You can cover over top of it with paint. So again, just a mechanical pencil. This is a Prismacolor Magic Rub Eraser. Do you have to have this one? No. I do recommend that you do get the white erasers. They tend to not leave any streakiness to them. So like, I think they have the Mars or Stadler, or however you say it, those white vinyl erasers. This one I really like because it definitely doesn't leave streaks at all. So I think this one I got from the dollar store for like, I don't know, $2, and you can see like it'll last me forever. In fact, I bought 5. Why did I buy 5? Because I planned for losing one, can't find one, my daughter stole one, you know, like I just planned for, you know, a couple extras, and they'll last me a long time. So I do recommend, you know, a white vinyl eraser or something like that if you're willing to spend a little bit extra. These are makeup sponges. I recommend those. These are from the dollar store. They're just cosmetic wedges. These are $1.25. And you can use these for applying paint through stencils, which we're going to talk about stencils in a minute. Applying paint through stencils, or even just, you know, doing a wash of color over top. This is going to save your brushes again, so that way, you know, I always try to conserve my paintbrushes for particular things, and I can buy these a lot cheaper than I can buy paintbrushes. So those are some things you might be want in your, or have, and you can put into your art journaling toolkit. This little tiny attacher, I'm telling you, this thing is awesome. So this is another thing you're going to want to either consider, or you can use even just a stapler, a regular stapler. They call it a tiny attacher. Let me just staple this. Is because the staples are tiny, as they say. Do you have to have this? No, you can just use a regular stapler. I just find this one's, I don't know, super handy. I don't know, I just like it. So you probably have a stapler in your stash. This is a nice way to add like tags or finishing little elements to your pages. And so yeah, I recommend something like that. Especially if you're not really sure how to attach something. If you can staple it in, and you know, if you don't like it, you can always take it off. This isn't really a tool, but I do recommend it. It's just a very universal thing to have, which we will talk about in a couple further on sessions. But this is Stays On black, jet black ink. That's what it looks like. As it says right on the logo, it says for every every surface. Oh my goodness. So if I have paint on a layout or on an art journal page, if I use a dye ink, any wet kind of medium I put over top, it's going to smear or smudge. It's not going to remain permanent. I recommend Stays On. They come in a ton of colors. I recommend you get the black. As you can see, like here's a navy and here's a green, but definitely my go-to color is the black. I do recommend it. If you're going to invest in any kind of ink or anything like that, I do recommend going with that. And then, of course, for stamping, you need an acrylic block. So this is just a random one I had. If you are already a scrapbooker, you probably already have a lot of these. I have used stamps without a block even. So even if you have something that, like a CD case or something like that, that you could use that as well. These are leftover gift cards. This is just another way to apply medium. So if you put gesso on your page and you want to kind of scrape it instead of using your paintbrushes, you could use these. And if you're like me, I'm just going to show you the amount of ones that I have collected over the last little while. Here's my nice little stack. So I have enough gift cards for a while. And they are not good gift cards. They're already, you know, they have their money out of them. So then I talked about this just briefly. We're going to talk about stencils. Now, stencils is kind of a background thing, but I kind of feel it's a tool thing because there's, it's a usable thing that you can use over and over and over again. It's not something that a consumable where you're going to use it up. So I keep mine in this 12 by 12 binder, and I just have the different, let me just turn this down just a little bit just so you can see. There we go. So these are in different pocket pages. So this is a 6 by 12, and I just store my stencils in here, and I have a lot. Do you need this many to start off with? Absolutely not. I do recommend a few. I recommend you get an alpha, whether it's this Tim Holtz, let me just pull it out. There's this Tim Holtz alpha one. It is called Cargo. You can see it's got lots of love. Or this one here by Donna Downey. You can see it right there. Oop, I'm getting a glare. There we go. And I believe it's called Repeating Alpha. Oh, Alpha Rerun. So I recommend something like this. This makes a really, really nice background. The other one I recommend you get, which actually I didn't grab them, so I will grab them, is something like circles or a geometric shape that you could use over and over again. I'm just flipping through so that way you can see them. If you have any questions about these, please let me know. Another good one to get is numbers. That's a good one to get. These, of course, are all the Donna Downey ones. Something like this circle pattern. This one is called, I think it's called Dots. This one is called Pebble Dots. So it's kind of like these not perfect circles. There is an actual one that's got dots on it, and I'm sorry I can't find it right now. Even something like this that has squares, that adds a lot of texture to it. But there you can see, like, stencils just come in so many different varieties, and you can spend a lot of money on stencils. So I say if you're looking at getting stencils, find ones that you kind of feel like you could use over and over again. So something like a repeating pattern, whether it's dots, squares. I know Dilutions has some really, really nice stencils. Or something that has like an image that you feel really strongly towards, that you feel you could use over and over again. The Dilutions, Diane Reedley has these ones, which I must say I have used several times. And these are the girls, and I think this is Chloe. Doesn't have the name on it. I believe it's Chloe, and it has the negative and the positive image. So here's like the little girl comes out, and then there's the actual ones with the silhouette. So those are something that you can use as kind of more like a focal image. You could certainly cut out stencils with some cardstock on your silhouette. If you have a silhouette machine or any die cutting machine, you could use your dies and stuff like that. If you have like the Tim Holtz actual like Sizzix dies, you could use those through paper, but your paper, you're going to have to keep throwing it away. So if you're okay with that, you can use that. So those are some of the ones I recommend. Okay, so there's these ones too, which I'm sure you can find from the dollar store, and they have like this alpha on them and numbers, and you could use those as well. And I think they come in a set, so you get these smaller alphas and then these ones. And I haven't seen them at my particular dollar store, but I know several people have said that they have found them at dollar stores. They're really more or less for kids, so that's what you could use as well. So there's lots of different things that you can use that you probably have in your stash already for tools. If you have any questions about tools or any other things that you recommend, put them below so that way other people can view the comments and see what other recommendations are out there. And I know that was a long video, and I'm sorry. So I hope you're still with me. I'm just going to show you really quickly. I let those tags dry so you can see that definitely made some texturized paint. This one, let me go this way. This one made that paint, and it's a little bit smoother. And then here is our modeling paste, and it's dry, so you can see it's dry there. So I wanted to show you that as well. So I'm sorry this video was so long, but anyway, thank you if you stuck with me for this long. Again, if you have any questions, leave them below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for more of getting into art journaling.